Okay, so we're going to do a couple things today. As I had mentioned in previous lectures, we're stepping the game up a little bit. Last couple assignments were really sort of they build up as far as what you have to do and things like that. So now we're sort of unleash the hound, so to speak. So this week you actually have 3 assignments. One is super easy though. The other 2 really aren't that hard, but I had to sort of break them apart into different assignments. Okay, so with that being said, all right, so here we go. So we're going to get right into the whole thing of it all. And let me start with the first assignment thing that we're going to do. This is a pretty easy thing to do. We've got to choose the share screen thing. Hang on a second here. That over there. How about this? Whoop. So we're going to talk about rule of thirds. It's not really a rule. It's more like a guideline, kind of a concept of things. So I have to show you a video. You think, wow, this is a college class and he's showing a Donald Duck video, but don't worry, it applies. So show you the part. I'll show you part of the video. I won't show you the whole thing. And great.
It was our old friend Pythagoras who discovered that the pentagram was full of mathematics.
Now, to back up a little bit, I should have explained this a little bit more. So the rule of thirds is not only a rule as far as photography, but it's something that was developed thousands of years ago with the Greeks, the Greek Empire, the Greek civilization. And so they're breaking it down what this rule of thirds is. They don't call it the rule of thirds in here. They call it the golden section, but it's going to break down to the same thing. Hopefully I'll be able to tie all together, make sense of it in just a few moments.
The 2 shorter lines combined exactly equal the third. And this line shows the magic proportions of the famous golden section. The second and third lines exactly equal the fourth. Once again, we have the golden section. But this is only the beginning. Hidden within the pentagram is a secret for creating a golden rectangle, which the Greeks admired for its beautiful proportions and magic qualities. The star contains the golden rectangle many times over. It's a most remarkable shape. It can mathematically reproduce itself indefinitely.
So I'll stop right there for just a second. This represents part of the rule of thirds and the fact that they're dividing it up mathematically. Your assignment won't be to divide things mathematically, but rather to see things and look at things in a little bit different way to try to illustrate something that you're looking at and trying to get a point across in a different manner than just straightforward shooting pictures.
Rectangles have exactly the same proportions. This figure also contains a magic spiral that repeats the proportions of the golden section into infinity. To the Greeks, the golden rectangle represented a mathematical law of beauty. We find it in their classical architecture. The Parthenon, perhaps one of the most famous of early Greek buildings, contains many golden rectangles. These same golden proportions are also found in their sculpture. centuries that followed, the golden rectangle dominated the idea of beauty and architecture throughout the Western world. The Cathedral of Notre is an outstanding example. The Renaissance painters knew this secret well.
So let me break this down a little bit more in the fact that what this golden section is bringing to light is the fact that the design of the human form is based upon this algorithm of division, meaning it's 1 to 1.6. You'll see it in a second, where we see it in our design on so many things in this world, as far as how advertisers design things, how they design products for us to use based upon the same principle. So we're going to use part of the same principle for our assignment this week. I know a lot of people often think, wait, he's showing us a Daffy or Donald Duck video in a college class. All right, it sounded sort of odd. Let me finish this out. So this golden ratio is 1 to 1.6.8. And what that means is, get rid of that little sign. Anyways, I can't rid of that. Anyways, what it means is that if you divide things a certain way, it comes up with the golden section. All this is based upon the golden section. So the symbol for the National Geographic, symbol for the Apple symbol, Toyota, all these different companies use the same golden ratio for this concept. So almost everything we use in this world is done with this. It's like, it's just driving me crazy. Sorry. All right. So what it is, how it applies to us as photographers and trying to create imagery is the fact that you can take this, if we imagine this to be our viewfinder or the view screen on your camera, you can divide it horizontally in sections of thirds. So we have the top third, the middle third, and the bottom third. Okay, so we've divided that into 3 equal sections. We can also do the same vertically this way, here and here. So yes, it's called Tic Tac Toe, essentially. Okay, but what this sort of relates to us is we can start to use these zones or division lines to sort of put areas of emphasis to try to tell a story to our viewer. Okay, and the rule of thirds, again, it's not a rule, it's a guideline. A lot of people interpret the rule of thirds is that you should put a point of interest where these lines intersect. You know, where those lines cross, those are the areas that you should try to put some sort of point of interest. That's not a rule, that's a guideline. You don't have to do that. But you can do things like, for example, if you're taking a picture of an amazing sunset, maybe you want to put the horizon really low to emphasize this amazing cloud structure of the sunset. Maybe you're taking a sunset or a picture in which it's not a very exciting sky. It's just a plain blue sky, nothing fancy, nothing bad about it, but it's not that exciting. Maybe you want to put the horizon up higher to try to emphasize the foreground more. So you're going to use that division of the picture to try to get these images. Okay, so let me show you some samples. So on the images that you shoot and turn in, I'm not going to go in and put this guideline on there. Okay, I'm not going to put a grid over your pictures to make sure you did it exactly to form, but the concept is there. You want to sort of divide the picture up. So obviously they've done this, they've done the rule of thirds sort of twice. They've put one of the subjects, this person standing on this rock, on the far right-hand side on that line over there, but also too, they put the horizon line really low in the picture. Same sort of thing here. It's not perfectly divided into the rule of thirds, but it's the same concept. Again, they've put the main subject on the far left-hand side of the picture and the horizon really low to sort of emphasize these amazing cloud structures. Now, I will tell you a couple ways to cheat on this project. And cheating, to me, isn't necessarily a bad thing as long as you're not doing it maliciously. When I say cheating, most of our cameras, if you go into the menus, oftentimes you can change the display to display the rule of thirds on the picture, on the screen itself, whether it be through the viewfinder or the screen itself. So if you're like, I'm not sure I'm getting this, you can go into your camera's menu system, and it's usually under the display panel, and you can change and make this rule of thirds profile come up, and it'll actually overlay this on top of the picture. So it'll help you sort of guide into the picture of the concept. Okay, so another one here, again, not exactly rule of thirds. I mean, they're not exactly on that division line over there, but it's close. It's the concept of it. They're not smack dab in the middle, and the horizon is really low. So they're using the rule of thirds here. Same thing here, this little girl running. Now they put the horizon line really up high, and they put her over there on that far left-hand side. Now this rule of thirds things is also applies to movies. Most of your major movies and major directors use the rule of thirds in a ton of different scenes. They use this to sort of bring us in, to sort of make us concentrate on a particular subject. Like, for example, this is The Secret Life of Walter Mitty. Really good movie, good movie, but also too, actually involves a lot of work in photography. So this is obviously divided up into the rule of thirds. Ratatouille, double down on the rule of thirds. Both characters are in the rule of thirds realm of things, and the one that sort of didn't set it wasn't the first one to use rule of thirds, but certainly set a benchmark for using the rule of thirds, is the Godfather series of movies. This Godfather is just, especially the first one and the second one too, really use the rule of thirds tremendously to sort of bring us into and out of a picture, to sort of tell us this is what you should be looking at, this is what you should be concentrating on. So one other sort of cheat factor on the rule of thirds: how do you get the rule of thirds to work? Well, how do you get it to work? Don't put your subject in the middle of the shot. So that's the basic thing, is don't put your subject in the middle of the shot. That's the rule of thirds. It's really easy. Now, one minor thing about the rule of thirds is most of our cameras will figure this issue out as far as focus is concerned. Sometimes I'm seeing people have their camera set to a really funky setting, and when they have the camera set to a certain setting, when they focus on it with the camera will sometimes focus on the wrong spot. When you look through the viewfinder of your camera, oftentimes you have little points. If you're not sure how to control that, you can always ask to set up a Zoom meeting with me. I'll step through it. I had 2 people do that last week. Second of all, is that you can also, a lot of times, I had a friend yesterday at a gathering, was having problems with their camera, and I looked through their camera menu system, and I went back to the camera, and I went and hit reset, where it reset all the functions of the camera. Camera worked like a dream at that point. Camera worked because it just, that a lot of us, sometimes we start getting into that menu and we start pressing buttons to turn things on, turn things off, and eventually it turns on too many things to make this work. Okay, so the first assignment this week is the rule of thirds. And for the life of me, I can't remember how many pictures you're supposed to take. I think it's 4, but it's on the sheets. It's on the assignment sheets. So really easy stuff. Now, a couple things I've seen in pictures. I've caught up on grading. I haven't graded week 3, but I have 1 and 2 graded. One of the things I'm seeing a lot of is, number 1 is, see, where's my, go outside. Stop taking pictures inside your house. Okay. If you take pictures in your house, I'm going to give you an F. Stop taking, it's a nice day outside. It's a lovely day. It's not raining. It's not cold. Take pictures outside. Stop taking pictures in your houses. And if I see any more ceiling fans, I'm about going to want to jump to the computer. Stop taking pictures of ceiling fans. Ceiling fans are fantastic. I've got some. I've got one. Let's see if I can show it to you. I've got one. Well, I've got one on my wall over there. I got one way up on the top. You can't quite see it because of that block. Anyways, stop taking pictures of ceiling fans. Okay, I'm just gonna put that out there. Stop taking pictures of ceiling fans, for God's sakes. So that's the first part of the assignment this week, is the rule of thirds. You're going to take pictures in which you're going to have something, you're not going to have it in the middle of the picture. You're going to break it off to one side or the other, up or down. The easiest way is just avoid the middle of the picture. If you avoid the middle of the picture, you're good to go. Heck, you can see right there in Star Wars. Are they using it there? Look where look where the main subjects of that they want you to look. They're not in the middle of the picture for the most part. They put them up on the top of Luke's head, so the bottom row part of the picture. So rule of thirds is really pretty easy. It's just don't put stuff in the middle. Okay, this can be subjects of anything you want, except no more ceiling fans and no more interiors. I promise you make an interior picture, I'm probably going to fail your assignment. Okay, don't take inside pictures. Stop it. I'm not sure if I made myself clear. See, I do this better in person. I can make it funny. Anyways, okay, so let's go on to the next one. Next part. This is going to be the next part of the assignment. Let me hit screen share. Assignment 4, part 1, sunset. We're going to do sunsets. So the sunsets are really a lot of fun. This is a great time of year for sunsets. We just get some stunning sunset pictures. So I'm going to show you the secret to taking amazing sunset pictures. And it applies not only to sunset, but it applies to other pictures as well. This technique is the secret technique that most people don't ever understand how to make it work on their camera, but your camera has a secret button that nobody else knows about, but you'll know about it and how to use it today. So if you want to take great sunsets like this is a place called Jenkinson Lake up near Placerville. This is down the street from my house here in Roseville. This is a sunflower field in Woodland, the state fair. And all of these are done with the exact same effect, the same technique on your camera. Your camera can do the exact same type of pictures. It just takes a little bit of understanding and a little bit of patience and maybe some extra pictures. Okay, you can take amazing pictures like this is in Arizona. The challenge here is what I'm seeing on some of these people's pictures, and I'm not necessarily being critical of these people, but a lot of times I'm seeing the assignment images in which your first picture was taken at, let's say, 4:51, and the last picture you give me is taken at 4:54. So you spent 6 minutes taking pictures and you only took 20 pictures. This is a digital camera. You can take more pictures. Try a longer, take more than 1 day's worth of pictures. Try that, would be a little bit more successful. All right, so to understand how to get these amazing sunset pictures and do this amazing thing with this camera, we have to understand how light meters work on your camera. Your camera has a built-in light meter that reads how much light is reflecting into it, okay? And as soon as we start to understand how these things work, we can start to control that, okay? The first thing is that these light meters that are in our cameras only understand middle gray only. So they're smart, sort of, but they're only so smart. They only understand the concept of what middle gray is. Middle gray meaning like asphalt, like light colored asphalt. A sidewalk is usually reasonably middle gray. Those types of things are usually middle gray. Lighter colored jeans, even though they're blue, tend to be middle gray. A sweatshirt, a gray sweatshirt, or gray sweatpants, that's a middle gray tone. Okay, so they only understand that. Consequently, because of that, if it's not that gray, if it's not that middle gray, the camera's like, well, shoot, that's not gray. Let me make it gray. Its goal in life, the light meter of your camera, its goal in life is to make everything gray. That's its job. So consequently, if you take pictures of a dark subject, like you take a picture of somebody in let's say a restaurant with a black background, a lot of restaurants paint the walls black. The camera says, wait a minute, that's not gray. I need to make that black turn into gray, so it's going to underexpose the image whether you want it to or not. Okay, so if you're taking pictures of dark subjects, someone's wearing all black or a black background, a lot of times cameras can sort of underexpose that concept. Okay, it can do the opposite as well. Is that taking pictures of something that's light, like you're taking pictures. It used to be I would take pictures of my kids in the bathtub, or people take pictures of kids in the bathtub. Your bathtub, and the tile around it usually is all white. So the picture becomes overexposed. We see that a lot with pictures on the beach, pictures in the snow. Because the background is so bright in the sun like that, the camera goes, wow, that is way not gray. Let me change that and make that a gray toned concept. So we can fix that though. We can overcompensate for the camera's inability to see this. So on your cameras have what's called an AEL button. And AEL stands for automatic exposure lock. Now, so the picture on the top that you're seeing is a picture of like your Sonys, your Nikons, your Olympus, your Pentax, your Fujis. They all have a button that says AEL, okay? If you have a Canon camera, you don't have that button. On a Canon camera, you have this little asterisk. You see on the far right-hand side? Most of the time, your cameras, 99.9% of the times I can think of, your cameras have a button sort of where your right thumb would sit on the back of the camera. And what this button does is it locks the exposure at whatever you're looking at. Okay, and that's really super important for what we need to do with this. So you're going to end up pressing this button before you take the picture. Because when you press the shutter button down, if you hit the shutter button, click it down, what's happening is a number of things. One is the camera has to try to figure out what it's focusing on, and then has to figure out what the light is. Well, it's whatever you're aiming it at. Well, sometimes we don't want what we're aiming at to be the exposure. So we're going to separate exposure from the focus and the actual shutter by using this button. So let me say that again. You're separating the exposure of the camera from the actual taking of the picture. So you're doing two separate things instead of letting the camera take over everything. Okay, so when you look through the viewfinder of your camera, you see this type of a scene. Whoops, hey now. That's what happens when your microphone touches the buttons. So when you look through your viewfinder, this is what a lot of cameras look either like this or at least similar to this. And so on here, what's happening is most cameras sort of take in a lot of information as far as the light meter is concerned. They not only read what's in that center sort of parentheses mark, they look inside the square, and they also look at the bigger numbers. You can also see that this particular one has the rule of thirds sort of set up a little bit, kind of. Anyhow, so this is what you see when you look through the viewfinder. You look at the view screen. Of course, if you remember last couple of weeks, I sort of recommended not looking at the screens, looking at the viewfinder works better. Anyhow, so how do you make this work? How does this play out on your cameras? How do you make this happen? It's really easy. So we're going to take a sunset picture like this. So if we're taking a sunset picture like this and we happen to have the sun right in it, now, as a side note, your sunset pictures don't actually have to have the sun in them. Number one, they can be a little bit before or a little bit after. Okay, 3 o'clock, it doesn't work. It doesn't work at 3 o'clock. You can do sunrise. If you're a morning person, you have to be job early or whatever. Sunrises do the same trick as well, but you can't do it past a half an hour past sunset or before sunrise, and you can't do it like more than an hour before sunset. The trick only works at certain times. And you think, well, I don't know when does the sun set? We all have smartphones, and all of our smartphones have the weather apps. Go to the weather app and it'll tell you what it is, or do things like ask Siri or whatever and say, hey, what time is sunset tonight? It'll tell you every single time. Right now, sunsets are like 8:20, 8:25. All right, so here's our picture. We want to take an amazing sunset picture like this. But what happens is our cameras predominantly, most consumer level cameras, predominantly look at the middle of the picture to try to gain what the exposure should be. Okay, so let me repeat that. Most digital SLR cameras are designed to expose for the middle of the picture because 99% of the people taking pictures don't know the rule of thirds thing that I just covered. They have no idea that you shouldn't put stuff in the middle sometimes. So to make people happy, the manufacturers make it to where they expose for the middle. Well, if we can aim our camera at the middle of this picture, we're aiming it at a pretty bright subject. And the camera goes, wow, that's really friggin' bright. Let me compensate that for you, and it's going to screw it up. So you're going to get, you're wherever, and you're taking an amazing sunset, and you get not the greatest picture. So what we do is in this situation is you take your camera, you think this is the composition I want. I want to have this, I want to have the horizon right in the middle, but I want to have a great sunset. Great. Then what you do is you move your camera either up here or up here, because those are the areas of quality of light that you truly want. If you want the best quality of light, you don't really care about the sun. The sun's going to be overexposed no matter what we do. We truly want the quality of picture in this upper area. So what we're going to do is we're going to move our camera either to the upper right or upper left. Either one, doesn't matter. And while aiming it up there, you're going to press that button in the AEL, or if you have a Canon, you're going to press the asterisk button. So if we look in the middle of the picture, that's the eventual goal of our picture. But to start with, we're going to move our camera to the upper right or upper left, press and hold that button in, and then come back down and take the picture. Some cameras, you have to hold the button down. Some cameras, you don't have to hold the button down. Every camera is a little bit different. I have just always gotten in the habit of holding the button down. It's in sort of a natural spot to hold it anyway. So it's not, it's not that it's not that extraordinarily hard to hold that button in while you're taking a picture. So you aim the camera up to the upper right or upper left, doesn't matter what side. You hold the picture, you hold that button down, and you come back down, and then you press the shutter button. So this button on the back of your camera and the shutter button are two separate movements to taking a picture. Okay. Will it work perfectly every time? No. But thankfully you have a digital camera. So digital cameras, you can keep doing the same thing over and over again. Try it aiming at different things. See what happens when you aim it at something that's really bright and then take the picture. Aim it at something really dark, hold the button down, take the picture. There's going to be different effects that you can control by doing that. So if you want a great silhouette, let's say you have someone, you're taking a picture of somebody in front of a sunset and you want an amazing silhouette. This is the technique that you use in order to get it. Okay. So these following pictures are all shot with that AEL trick. This is Horsetail Falls in Yosemite. So it doesn't always have to be a sunset. This wasn't a sunset, but I used the AEL trick to get this exposure. Otherwise, the camera would never even have come close to taking this picture. Another one, this is a barn that we were at that I just saw the picture. I'm like, this is kind of cool. If I had just taken it, the camera wouldn't have exposed for this correctly. I probably took 4 or 5 pictures in the same sort of run. Taking picture where I press the button down, hold it, and come back and take the picture, just aiming at different things. So I can't overemphasize enough how important it is to try to aim it at something, hold it, come back and compose and take the picture. So for example, let me get out of screen share so I can get my video. So on every single camera, there's a button in the back. Mine's right there. Mine says AEL. If you have a Canon camera, it's going to have that little asterisk symbol. Okay. So as I go to take a picture, of that sunset, instead of just aiming forward and taking the picture, I'm going to look up, aim it to the upper right or left, press the button in and hold it. So my thumb is holding that button down. I haven't taken the shutter button yet. And then I'm going to move the picture down, recompose, and then take the picture. Okay, so when I do that again, I'm like, this is the shot, this is the shot, this is the shot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to aim the camera at the upper right or upper left, doesn't matter where, press the button in and hold it, come back, and then take the picture. Okay, so it's really pretty easy stuff. It's not that terribly hard, but that's the idea that you want to do. Now you can do it for things that are not sunset-ish, in the fact that let's say you're taking a picture of let's say a winery. You've gone to a winery or something like that, and you want to get a picture where you have just an amazing cutout, amazing silhouette. Well, at that point, you'd probably aim it at the sky, to expose for the sky, hold the button in, come back down and take the picture. You're using a digital camera, so try different effects. See what happens when you aim it at something that's really light. Like, it doesn't have to be in the picture. Let's say you think, well, that's really bright over there. Aim it over there, press the button in, come back, take the picture, and see what happens. It's really sort of a trial and error thing, because I could give you the answer to how to do it, but I think oftentimes we learn more by actually doing something. Okay, so it's pretty easy stuff. So the rule of thirds and the sunset picture are pretty easy stuff. A couple minor things just to go over, make sure we're all on the same page. One is, if you try to take a picture of a sunset in your house, probably not going to work. You need to go outside of your house. Need to leave the house. No more indoor pictures. Stop it on the indoors. Go outside. It's a great day today or this week. Number 2 is start to be more creative. Some people are turning some amazing pictures in. I've graded week 1 and 2. Sorry, I don't have the videos up. Little technical glitch, but I will have the videos up soon. But try different things. This is a digital camera, so you can take all the pictures you want and see what happens. Okay. All right. So that's assignment part 1 and assignment part 2. As I mentioned last week, we're going to start our final project this week. Okay. But instead of just dumping it on you and say, here, you figured out, I have a checkpoint. So there's something to do this week. That doesn't have anything to do with actually taking pictures. There's something to do this week for you. And then you're going to turn that part in to show me that you've done the research and you've done the investigation for something. Okay. So let's talk about what this particular assignment is. This assignment involves the biography of a particular photographer. You're going to have a photographer assigned to you. So everybody in class, and I'll make an announcement on the board and I'll send out an email. I want everybody to send me an email back, and I will email you or text, either one, who your photographer is. Okay. So you have to write a 2 to 3 page document on this photographer. There's all sorts of photographers. I would love it if you could choose one, but that doesn't really work online all that well. Instead, I have a list of about 35 different photographers, and I sort of randomly apply it. So as soon as you email me, I go through this randomizer little app I have, and it randomizes it and then says, okay, Alejandro, you get this person. Stefan, you get this person. Joseph, you get this person. So it automatically assigns it to you. So I'm not picking people. It's sort of random. The universe does it. And so here's what's going to happen. You're going to have to write a 2 to 3 page sort of a biography on this person, and we'll talk about that in a second. And then you have to create a photograph based upon the style of that photographer. Okay, it's not to say that you're going to copy their work, but you're going to take a picture that's influenced by their work. Okay, meaning that let's say you were to get Ansel Adams. Hopefully everybody's watched the Ansel Adams video I have. If you've watched the Ansel Adams video, it doesn't mean, if you get Ansel Adams, that doesn't mean that you have to go to Yosemite. I'm not expecting you to drive to Yosemite to take pictures, but you can take pictures in the style of Ansel Adams. So if you've watched the Ansel Adams video, I talk about how he took pictures of a certain style. He usually, most of his pictures, 90% of his pictures are black and white. Most of his pictures are landscape. They're rarely portraits. And most of the time they have a really long field of depth of field. Okay, so if you were to take those things and apply it to your photograph, you would be photographing in the style of Ansel Adams. Let me give you a different sort of concept as far as music is concerned. Now, I'm sure everybody has probably heard of the Rolling Stones at some point in your life. You've heard of the Rolling Stones, Mick Jagger, Keith Richards, those guys. Their first hit was not I Can't Get No Satisfaction. That was not their first record. They were a cover band. They loved this music style called the Chicago Blues, and they just absolutely loved playing Chicago blues music. Muddy Waters, all these other guys, Bo Diddley, and so they would play their music. The Chicago Blues guys, they play their music. Well, eventually they took that style of the Chicago Blues and applied it to their own feelings and made their own songs, but based upon the old style music. So they didn't copy them necessarily. At first they did, but eventually they start to where they did pictures that were sort of influenced by the concept of the Chicago Blues movement. Okay, so the eventual goal is for you to take that photographer's work and create a picture based upon that style. But this week is not necessarily to worry about that. This week is a reference. So I want you to investigate the person's work and get pictures of their styles. So at the end of the week, you have to turn in an assignment that shows their work and also this document. Okay, it's all lined up on the assignment sheet. When you're looking up information on the internet, there's obviously, as I'm sure you know, there's lots of resources on the internet. Most academics would not want you to use Wikipedia as a reliable source because it can be influenced. People can write what they want to in Wikipedia. So that's very true, but that doesn't mean you can't use it as a launching point to find other information. Every single one of the photographers on my list has a foundation website, meaning that they have a homepage that's dedicated to their photography. Because if you just type in the word Ansel Adams, you'll find not only his work, but you'll find all the other pictures out there too, because Google's just keywording it. And so as soon as you type in Ansel Adams, I could put a picture up, that picture I showed you of the Horsetail Falls. And if I put in, this reminds me of Ansel Adams. As soon as you type in Ansel Adams, that picture is going to come up. So my recommendation would be to go to their foundation website, and I want you to save pictures based upon those photographers' work. So what you're going to be turning into me is pictures from those photographers' work to start to get a style concept as far as what you're looking for. Okay, and all the information is on the data sheets for the assignments for this week. So this week you have 3 things to do. You have the rule of thirds is number 1. So you have to photograph pictures in the rule of thirds. You have to photograph sunset pictures, and then you have to do the research and development for this assignment. Okay, we'll be bringing this up more because we have 2 full weeks to do this final assignment. Now, it being 2 weeks full of assignment, that means I'm going to base a lot of points on this final project. So it's not something you want to wait till the last possible second to do. Okay. Now, a couple last things on pictures that I've been seeing, pictures people have been turning in. I have been seeing a couple of recurring concepts on images. Number 1 is a lot of times, and this is kind of hard to do at home, a lot of times I see people's pictures in which they have little spots in the sky. And that's caused by what we call sensor dust. So on our cameras, that's my sensor that you're looking at right there. And there can be dust on that. Okay, so taking the dust out yourself, not the easiest trick in the book. If you have canned air, you can try it, but if you don't have a mirrorless camera, so if you have a Canon camera or Nikon that has a mirror in it, sometimes cleaning that sensor can be a bit of a trick. Okay, but there are solutions or workarounds. If you're interested, and if I happen to make mention on your assignments that you have sensor dust, that might be something you want to look into, whether you can do it or you can have it done at a camera store. Most camera stores just do it for $20 to $30. But you'll only see sensor dust usually on pictures in which you're taking when you have sky in the picture, because that's where it comes up. It shows up a little bit light. It's usually a dark spot. The other thing I've seen on people's pictures is the fact that we need to make sure our lenses are very clean. We can do a lot of cool things with Photoshop and other digital tools, but you can't get rid of a smudge. So if you have a smudge on your lens, you might want to think about using some sort of, glasses cleaner or something like that to simply clean the front of your lens and clean that off, because that's one of the other things I'm seeing in a lot of pictures is sort of a lens smudge. We all do it. We all forget about cleaning lenses, and that's okay. But I just want to sort of point out that everybody should start to think about cleaning their lenses just a little bit. Okay. I think that was it for this week's lecture. Do we have any questions about what we're doing? Anybody have some chat questions or audio questions or whatever you want to do? And as I'm waiting for this, the other thing too is if you have a question, you think, well, my question is kind of involved. Hey, let me know. I'll set up a time and thing to where we can do a one-on-one Zoom to go over any issues with your camera or assignments or whatever it may be. I don't expect you to know every answer. If you have questions, please don't be afraid to ask me questions. Okay. So do we have any questions or things like that? Bueller. Anybody? So a couple more, one or two minor things. One is on your camera, on the memory card that you use, these little, whether you use these types of cards, SD cards, or some of the cameras use that's not small enough, so they use the micro SDs, whatever type of card you use. In this type of a class, it's not imperative that you do this. But over time, I think it's really important that you format the card all the time. So for a lot of people, that's not the most important thing, because a lot of times people will keep their pictures on the memory card. But over a period of time, that could become a big problem, in that if you continually save pictures on the same card over and over and over again, suddenly you have a memory card that has 1,800 pictures on it. And it's like your phone. I have so many friends that say, oh, let me show you a picture of my dog or whatever. And they're scrolling for 10 minutes. That's another solution. Here, I would really recommend thinking about downloading the pictures to your computer, however you want to organize them. I'll probably talk about organization next week. But then on your card, when you put your card in your camera and you turn the menu on, there is the option to format the card. Formatting the card wipes it clean and it makes it work a little bit better. But big caveat here is there's no going back. If you format the card, the pictures are pretty much gone for good. There's a few software things you can do, but for the most part, they're good. So everybody's different. I know I'm different because I take pictures all the time. I have 3 shoots to do today. Every single day I format my card, because there's not, for me as a professional photographer, I can't go to the real estate shoots and go, oh, so like I didn't format, I didn't download, and I only have 10 pictures left. I don't talk like 10, but whatever. But I format the card every single day so I can keep myself organized. Because when I have as many shoots as I do, when I'm doing 3-4 shoots every single day of the week, organization is really important. So I personally format the cards all the time. A couple other minor little things that I see coming through on pictures. One is pressing the button halfway down before you take the picture is really important. So that way you compose and get the things ready. If you just press it all the way straight down, that doesn't work as well. So I can really highly recommend you get used to the idea of pressing it halfway down, getting it ready, and then when you're ready to shoot it, you take the picture. So like the pictures of the airplanes, like that picture of the airplane right there, that's done with pressing the button halfway down type situation. I can't just press it down and expect the camera to figure it all out. So no questions. Anybody? Oh, yeah, you have to email me to get your photographer. That's correct. And so for the email, I'll put this as an announcement on the main page for everybody to either email me or text me saying, who's my photographer? I'll have the list for that. And I'll go and I'll send you back a thing. And then setting our cameras from here on out, for the most part, you can just leave your camera on P for program. Because great question, by the way, Alejandro. I appreciate the question. Sometimes I get so excited. That's why I have to sort of stop and repeat myself, because I get really excited about this concept. For the rest of the class, you can pretty much leave your camera on P or program. The thing that I like about the P or program on every single camera does it the same way. If you put it on P or program, you have the ability to control the aperture to what you want it to be. So let's say you're taking that sunset picture and you're like, well, I want to go like F16 or something like that. In the program mode, if you tap the shutter button just really lightly, you can turn the dial of your camera. You know, every camera has some sort of dial in the front. Mine has that little dial. Some have it on the back. Whatever. As soon as you tap that shutter button down just a little bit, you'll see the symbol, the information come up in the back of the screen. At that point, you can turn the dial to get it to be what you want it to be. The best thing, again, is as almost everything is to practice it. I am not a perfect photographer. I have my issues. I mostly do commercial work where I'm doing like real estate. I had this huge house to do in Lake Tahoe this last week. Commercial properties products, but now this one company is liking my portrait work and stuff like that. So I've had like 3 portrait shoots in the last week. Well, personally, I haven't done a lot of portrait work in the last couple of months because of that stuff called COVID. You know, portrait photography got knocked to nothing. And so what I did is I went out with I took my sons out and we did some practice work. So even I find that practice makes perfect. I go out and practice my craft to sort of figure things out. I don't expect my pictures to come out perfect every time, but I practice. So great question, Alejandro. Thank you for asking that. Any other questions? And I'll have the announcement up in just a few minutes once we're done with class. Oops. Any other questions? Okay, well, I don't see any other questions coming in. So have a great week. I will have this announcement about the email and stuff to you in just a few minutes on the Canvas site. But email or text, and I'll get back to you and let you know who your photographer is. And if you have, and you'll probably have questions, which I would hope you do. Don't be afraid to ask me those questions. I'm trying to get back to people as quickly as possible. Usually text is faster, but we'll make it work. One way or another, we'll make it work. So other than that, I thank you for your attendance, even though it's theoretically a holiday, and have a great week. And I can't wait to see some more of your pictures. And I'll see you next Monday morning, or maybe even tonight if you want to see it again. But other than that, we'll see you.